All right, here we go. The interview nobody saw coming. Tariq Nasheed, welcome back to Vlad TV.
Yes, indeed.
We're about to shake things up.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
We got a lot to talk about, but first, we got to talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I'm going to do a recap.
Yeah.
2016, I brought you in to do an interview.
Yes.
It was a great interview.
Yes, it was.
Very respectful, did good numbers. Everyone walked away from it happy. Now, in the comments, I was seeing a lot of people say, oh, you should bring in Tommy Sotomayor. Now, I didn't really know anything about Tommy, but people were asking for it. We looked him up. He had some numbers at the time. We weren't like really as in-depth in our research as we are now. So I said, okay, you know, he's doing numbers. I don't really know too much about him, but let's bring him back. So, I didn't know the two of you had any sort of beef.
Okay.
In all honesty, I had no idea. It wasn't in my notes. It was not brought up. In the interview, there was no mention of it. But then in the middle of the interview, you showed up.
Yes.
Now, Tommy was on social media that day, basically announcing that he's doing Vlad TV.
Yes.
And that's how you found out.
That's how I found out.
Did I call you and tell you about it?
No, you didn't. You did not.
In fact, I don't think I spoke to you after that interview.
No, we haven't spoke. We didn't speak at all.
At all.
Right.
But Tommy was announcing it on social media, and since you had just been on my show not too long ago, you knew exactly where the studio was and everything else like that.
Yeah.
In the middle of the interview, you actually storm into the studio.
Did I storm in?
Yes, you stormed in.
I just kind of walked in. I didn't. There were a lot of rumors, and I just kind of walked on in.
You walked in. You walked in, and you had something with you. What was that?
I had a Coon Train Award.
Hey.
Had a Plantation Celebration Award.
Okay. I was completely in shock at the time. And back then, we didn't have very good security. You know, now we got a security guy sitting here. All the doors are locked. But back then, we were very lackadaisical about it. So I had no idea what was happening. And I remember Tommy was like, you set me up. You set me up.
Which wasn't true.
No,
Right.
I did not set him up. I had no idea this was going to happen. So you came in and you confronted him. And you actually filmed it. Okay. And we'll play a little clip of basically what happened. Wait, hold on.
Hey, what's up, Vlad?
What's up?
I had to present Crispy with
Don't
that award.
do that.
What's
don't
up,
do that.
Crispy? I had to give you your award,
Yeah,
Crispy.
I had no idea that this is...
You set this up.
Crispy.
dog.
I did not set this
You
up.
set this up. Yes, you
Crispy,
did.
I
Come
had
on,
to-
dog.
Actually, I have no idea.
Then why is he
Crispy.
in here?
Tariq,
I gotta
Why
give
is
you
he
your
in here?
award.
Why is he in
I
here?
just came to give him
Tariq,
an
did I
award.
do
This
I
a
have
grown
any
man.
idea?
Crispy, let
This
me
a
give
grown
you
man.
your
Grown
award.
man. This a grown
Crispy,
man.
let me give you your award,
And you-
Crispy. Now, Crispy, you were giving death threats like you were supposed to kill me and all
No,
that.
you told me I can't
Where's
come
the
to
killer?
LA. No, you told me I can't come to LA.
Where's the
You
killer?
told me I can't come to LA.
Where's the killer,
You said
Crispy?
I left
Crispy.
LA because you was gonna do something to me.
But
That's
where's
what
the
you told
killing,
me.
Crispy?
You told me I was gonna come. If I
Where-
don't come to LA,
where's
you
the
gonna do
killer?
something to me.
Where's
I
the
ain't seen it.
Crispy, where's the
I ain't seen it.
Where's the
I ain't seen it. You
I'm
told me
giving
I
you
can't
an
come to
award, Crispy.
LA.
Now, nobody actually got touched,
Right.
but you guys started basically, well, you got in his face, and you guys started to argue.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, now, some backstory. Why exactly did you show up?
The problem that I had is because I did the interview. And what we've seen with a lot of interviews, we've seen with your broadcast, we've seen with other platforms, one person will be interviewed and then an op will be interviewed right after as a way to seemingly instigate a beef. So that's where I was at the time. I'm thinking, okay, are you bringing this guy up here after me to instigate a beef? And the guy at the time, and I don't have a problem with Tommy now. I'm not even tripping on Tommy now. But at the time, he was kind of making threats and he was going to do this and do that. So to have him on right after me, after he'd made those threats, I'm thinking, okay, this is a personal shot at me. And he was going on social media saying he's on his way. So I said, okay, well, let me go on up here and see what's going on. So that's where my mind was at the time.
But I'm telling you once again, I had no idea the two of you had any sort of beef. But I understand you being upset.
Right.
Right? I mean, after the fact.
Right.
So this whole thing happened. You ultimately left. You left a little award for him
Yes, I did.
in the room.
Yeah.
Me and him kind of addressed what had happened in the interview after that, because I had
Okay.
no idea, and he kind of explained to me some of the, whatever it was about. And honestly, like, I really didn't like the interview I was doing with him anyways, because I didn't really realize, you know, when I booked him, really his background and what his platform is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his platform is like anti-black women, anti-black people sometimes. And a lot of it was sort of arguing with him that what he was saying wasn't really true. So a lot of it was like, oh, well, black women, they do this, this, and this. And it's like, well, poor people do that. Whether they're black or white or Mexican or Asian or Jewish, whatever.
Right.
This is poor people behavior. This is not specifically black.
Right.
You know, and that was a lot of our kind of back and forth during the situation.
Okay.
So this happens, you eventually leave, you finish off the interview. I call you up and say, listen, can you take down this clip? This is, because for my thing is like, it makes Vlad TV look like an unsafe environment in a way where anyone can just storm in and confront their ops, and that's not how we get down. And you didn't want to take down the video.
Right.
So
I'm pissed off still because I'm thinking, okay, you're kind of disrespecting me by having him on here knowing, and I'm thinking, you know that this guy was dissing me. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
I'm
Me and you never
well,
actually even discussed that.
Right, we never discussed this.
Yeah.
So
I didn't find out about that until years later where you did an interview and you explained that. And I'm like, oh, that's what he was thinking? Like,
yeah.
that's just not true.
Okay.
But okay. And my thing was like, you could have waited for him in the parking lot. You would have eventually had to leave. Like,
Yeah, because my thing is, man, because a lot of these platforms out here, they'll have people beefing and then it'll spill over in the streets. And then people are just here safe, chilling. Like, no, let's bring it all out in the open here. Let's not wait till it spill over in the streets. Let's get it down right now and let's see what's going on.
But that's never been my style historically. So when I have brought in people that had problems with previous guests, the conversation usually goes, we fix this.
Right.
I know this has happened. Can y'all get together? I can get y'all on the phone together. Can y'all move out of the area where all this beef is happening to avoid this? Me and FBG Duck have had this conversation. Me and Fulio have had this conversation. Me and a lot of people have had these conversations. It's all on tape. You know what I'm saying? I've never been one to sort of hype it up and make it worse, but
because we see that's a problem. We see that's a major problem. And a lot of these platforms got to take some kind of responsibility to not put fire on the flame or put flame on the fire, whatever. Because with Fulio, you just mentioned Fulio, somebody just off this guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, because of the online beefing and rapping and that stuff, that we have to have some kind of responsibility to say, hey, let's chill out on this stuff. Let's not, if we see it's going in a certain way, let's pull back on that. I remember having Nipsey on my broadcast when he was here, and he started talking about something that was somewhat sensitive that I knew about relating to the streets. So I backed him off that conversation so that he wouldn't dig himself in a hole that would come back and kind of snipe him in the back later on.
Yeah.
So we as journalists and as influencers, we gotta kind of say, hey, let's not instigate anything or let's not say anything or put people in a position where things are gonna spill over in the streets.
yeah. And like I said, when I do have these kind of conversations with people, it's usually, how can we fix it? And sometimes it's been fixed. You know, I remember at one point, the Outlaws, you know, Tupac's group were all beefing with each other. I spoke to all of them individually, and then I had them all on my show together, and they've worked out all the issues essentially they were having.
Because, you know, Vlad, you do have a reputation. People say Vlad instigates a lot of stuff. Vlad is the police.
Right. I'm the
Vlad
feds.
be putting people in jail. You know,
Right.
that's the rumor about Vlad.
Right. And, you know, to be fair, though, the only time that footage from my interviews has been used in a court case is the Keefe D situation. But Keefe wrote a whole book before I interviewed him. And the interview was about the book. So if you want to write a book about all your crimes, I'm going to interview you about that book. I'm not going to feel bad about that part. But outside of that, all the rumors, ARAB is locked up because of Vlad. No, not true. Nothing to do with our interviews that was ever brought up in court. Casanova 2 times locked up because of Vlad. Once again, nothing to do. Nothing that we did on tape was ever brought up in his court case. It was a totally different situation. If you want to, you know, if you did crimes in your past and you did prison time around those crimes, you are allowed to talk about it. You have earned the right with your own life.
But would that kind of be considered dry interrogation? Because you'll ask somebody, hey, You had a gun. How many people you shoot? So it's an innocent journalistic question, but in the realm of hip hop,
Well,
would that be considered dry interrogation?
no, because if you went and did 10 years over shooting those people, you could come out and talk about it. You have, you know what I mean? There is no double jeopardy. You've already been convicted of it. You've already pled out, et cetera, et cetera. You're allowed to talk about it.
But
That's how I look at it.
Oh, now, are there some situations where people have not been charged with certain things and you've asked questions
No.
about certain criminal activities? Because that's the thing. That's the narrative that a lot
That's
of
the
people
narrative,
have.
but it's not a true narrative.
Okay.
It's a fake narrative. And you
Okay.
have lots of fake narratives about you as well, so you understand how it goes. Yes, it's, Vlad does this, Vlad sends people to jail, but it's actually not true.
Okay.
Like I said, the Keefe D situation is the only solid example of this. And I've said it myself. But once again, he wrote a book and he did multiple interviews about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so back to the story at hand. I had the conversation with you, didn't go well. Then I had the conversation with Tommy, and I'm trying to explain to him that I didn't set him up, that I had nothing to do with this. He records the conversation and posts it on YouTube. At which point, I felt like I was done with both of y'all. I said, I'm done with this whole group right here. Like this whole beef that I didn't even know existed. I'm done. I took down your interview. I never posted his interview. And then I was over. And, you know, over the years, you know, I took some shots at you online. You've responded. So we've taken shots at each other and so forth. But then when I saw that interview, when you explained why you did what you did, I reached out to you. I sent you a text.
Yeah.
I said, hey, do you want to have a conversation? You responded.
Absolutely.
I'm like, let's get on the phone.
Yeah.
And we had a mature conversation about
We
it.
did. Yes, we did.
And I said, yo, let's have you come in and kind of show how two grown men who are successful at what they do could actually talk things out
Absolutely.
without it being, you know, a bunch of rah-rah and ridiculousness.
Exactly.
And just shows growth. Because honestly, what I realized was it was all based on a misconception.
Right.
And that's that. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
And now, here we are.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
You have a new film, which I want to cover in a minute. But there's a few things that are actually happening right now that are time sensitive
Yes.
that I want to cover. The first of which is Ryan Garcia.
Yeah. Yeah.
He went on a whole online rant. He said, I hate N-words. He said, I'm anti-black. Bring George Floyd back to life and kill that N-word again. And the consequence of all this was he was actually expelled by the WBC,
Yep.
which is the umbrella organization that allows him to fight professionally. Number one, when you saw like these rants online, what did you think?
I wasn't shocked for some reason because he'd already made little weird racist comments about another boxer's father, and so they were already making these little weird racist comments before. So I wasn't shocked. And also, he was in a room. He had some other people that are known for anti-black racism in the room with him when he was doing that live.
Okay.
So I really wasn't shocked by what he was saying because a lot of these guys, man, in order to ingratiate themselves with certain audiences, a lot of the boxing audiences, a lot of them harbor a lot of anti-black racism because it's all about rooting against the black guy. Just like with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather got that money, all the money that he has and all the success that he has because people were rooting against him. They wanted to see him get beat so badly by a non-black person. I've been to a few Floyd Mayweather fights. I remember when he fought the Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor, yeah.
Up in Vegas, everybody's running around with Irish flags. I had an American flag with me. I was the only person with an American flag. People will turn on the country in order to turn on a black person. All of those fights are all about somebody, either white, semi-white, or just not black, beating a black person. So they've always looked for some kind of great white hope. Ryan Garcia is the next great white hope, and he understands the racial dynamics in all of this. So he's pandering to that racist audience that he knows is there. So the boxing audience, they've always had that racial dynamic thing there that a lot of people don't like to talk about. The Rocky movies. The Rocky movies was based on a lie. Muhammad Ali fought this guy, I can't think of his name, I'm having a brain fart, but the movie Rocky is based on a real fight with Muhammad Ali and this white guy.
Well, no, isn't it based on this white fighter?
Right, it's a white fighter. Right, it's a white fighter.
He didn't fight Muhammad Ali.
He did fight, yeah. He fought Muhammad Ali. Sylvester Stallone, God, I can't think of the name. But this was like 1974, 75, where Sylvester Stallone saw this guy fight Ali. And what happened, the guy tripped Ali up. He put his foot on Ali's foot. And
Chuck Wepner.
Chuck Wepner, there it is, Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner tripped Ali. But it looked like he knocked Ali down.
You're right. He fought Muhammad Ali on March 24th, 1975.
Right.
You're right. Okay,
but
yeah.
Ali got up and beat the brakes off of him. But just the fact that he perceived to have knocked Ali down, they looked at that as a win. Hey, we knocked the big black champion down. He wrote the Rocky movie based on that. And the Rocky movie is a gazillion-dollar franchise to this day. So that racial dynamic in sports and in boxing in particular, that's always been there. Going back to the days of Jack Johnson, that's always been there. So I'm not shocked because of Ryan Garcia.
Okay. Well, after he got expelled by the WBC, he made some statements. He said, I take all responsibility for my words. I misunderstood. I just got a lot of trauma. And it's been a tough couple of months, as everyone can tell, but I am sorry. I struggle with substance abuse. It was hard for me with everything going on. I actually love black people, no cap, which is why I'm actually sad I offended all my black family and friends. This sucks, but all I can do is better and stop using stupid words and letting some people in my circle hype me up. Sorry, everyone that I offended. I still stand on stopping black on black crime. In the hood, everyone has said the N-word.
So that just nullified the whole apology at the very end. All of that I'm sorry stuff, and then but what about black on black crime? And everybody says the N-word. So that means I'm not really sorry.
Right.
So yeah, that was an insult within the apology. That whole black on black crime thing. Whenever they do that, that's something said to justify harming and punishing black people. They don't really care about black on black crime. There's no such thing as black on black crime. There's just crime. We don't uniquely commit more crime or less crime than any other people. And also, he's Hispanic culture. If we want to talk about crime, there's drug cartels all in his culture. We're going to go there. But again, that anti-black rhetoric is something that a lot of these guys use in order to ingratiate themselves to that audience out there.
Well, yeah, he said, in response to the WBC expulsion, he said, so many other people have said racist remarks and you never expelled them. He said, I'm expelled from boxing as I should be for my comments. I don't get to box again. I lost a lot of sponsorships. Trust me, what I said is not going good for me, but I deserve it. And then he announced he's going to rehab.
Well, they always say they're going to go to rehab. There's no such thing as racism rehab. You know? Drugs don't make you racist, man. It's already
Drugs don't make you
right.
racist.
It ain't Khalil Muhammad. It ain't the crack. It's the cracker. You just had a cracker inside of you that you wanted to come out. That's what it is. It ain't the crack.
Bill Haney was a guest on my show recently. Me and him still talk.
Okay.
And remember, they actually had to change the record from that last fight that he had with Devin Haney because of, remember, they found performance-enhancing drugs in the system. So they actually had to change the record from a win to I think a no contest, and it was taken off everyone's records. And I asked Bill, I said, and the thing is, Ryan and his son had been boxing together since they were kids. They were not boxing together, but they would all be in the same tournaments. Yeah. They would all end up in the finals together since they were 15. And I said, you know this guy. Do you think that, he was having, substance abuse problems, or was he really just doing it on purpose? He's like, no, he was doing it on purpose. He knew what he was doing.
Oh, of course.
And he knows him. And he stands on that. Well, Oscar De La Hoya spoke about it. He said, there's no room for hate or intolerance at my company, period. I condemn Ryan's words in the strongest possible terms. I see that he has apologized, not as a start, but as only a start to earn back the trust and respect of those who have and continue to support him. We hope Ryan will use this time he has away from the sport to work through the issues he has publicly discussed. We stand ready to help in whatever we can.
Yeah, they're going to try to put the cape on for this guy because Ryan, he's a potential big moneymaker. Yeah, he's a potential moneymaker, and they don't want his flub-ups to mess up that money. So they're going to try to spin it and try to work it around because, again, he's the new great white hope. Or he's close enough to whiteness. So they're going to do a lot of caping and splaining for the guy. And it's going to be very interesting. I think he will make more money because now, if he gets back into the boxing arena, we want to see him get his ass whooped. So we want to see a black fighter. I want to tune in to see that. So I think it's going to make more money for him.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, look at all the free promo that this has brought. I mean, it's an immense amount of time. And I think he's expelled, so I don't know if they're going to let him back in. I mean, they may.
They might.
Well, they had suspended him for like a year because of the PEDs.
Right.
But now this is now more serious.
Right.
Now he could go into another sport though.
Yeah.
He could go into UFC.
Mm-hmm.
He could go into bare knuckle fights and
yeah. He has a name. He has a name, so he can flip it and work it different ways.
He's definitely a draw, whether we like it or not. People know who he is. And yeah, people want to see him fight a black fighter.
Right, but now here's another thing. Now, will people catch this guy slipping now? Because now he's now known as an anti-black racist. He kind of has this mindset, yeah, if you got a problem, come see me. Now, with that mindset, somebody is going to come see him. Unfortunately.
He is a professional fighter, though.
So,
it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Right,
You're not just going like...
But you better understand, there's some cats out there like, hey, man, I got some skills too, and hey, I had to put it on Ryan when I saw him over at the strip club or whatever, so I don't want him opening up that door because he's been kind of challenging people just in general, like, yeah, if you don't like me, come see me, that type of thing. So that's a dangerous game to play because somebody might say, hey, I ain't got nothing to lose, I go see him.
Well, especially if you're a lot bigger than him.
Yeah.
And you're actually know how to fight professionally. If you're a heavyweight, he doesn't stand but that big of a chance.
Street fighting is different. Street fighting is different. In the boxing ring, there's kind of rules. You can't do this, you can't do that. The streets is a whole different thing. So
bite, gouge eyes.
Yeah. Somebody get them legs. So yeah, you don't. I've seen professional boxers, get their hands put on them in the streets.
Well, Wiz Khalifa, there's a video of them kind of hanging out a little bit. And now Wiz is sort of getting it.
Yeah.
Over this.
Yeah, people they're questioning Wiz Khalifa's lineage now. They're saying that he might have some South American lineage.
Lineage.
He might not be full FBA. He might not be a full foundational black American hanging with that dude. Because that's a bad look for Wiz.
Well, Mayweather was asked about it.
Yeah, he deflected.
Yeah, he said, no, you're not going to get me involved in that. That's not my thing. Something negative. I don't want to have nothing to do with that.
And I don't blame him. I don't blame Floyd because any sound clip they can get from Floyd, they're going to blow it up. It's going to be a headline. Floyd Mayweather said that Ryan is a disgusting racist. So that's why I ain't got nothing to say because all they're going to do is spin it anyway. So I'm not mad at Floyd.
Well, yeah. And I mean, according to Devin, he felt that Floyd and Ryan were like working together. Like in this last fight, like he felt that they came up with this plan for Ryan to be a little bit heavier in order to win the fight. And he feels they're somehow plotting. Now, I don't know if you caught it, but Bill and Floyd got into this whole online, yelling match with each other. Well, mostly Bill was yelling. Right. Floyd actually was fairly calm in the whole situation, but, Bill called him all types of bitches and whatever else. And,
I was wondering what that whole thing was about.
Well, I guess at one point, Floyd wanted to sign Devin, and they walked away from the deal.
Oh, okay.
It just wasn't enough or whatever else. And I think might have been some bad blood over it not working out. But Floyd is still Floyd, man. Floyd really is, you could say, is the greatest boxer of all time.
Yes, he is.
I mean, some people say Muhammad Ali, but Muhammad Ali doesn't have Floyd's,
Floyd
record.
Took a loss. Yeah, Floyd didn't take no loss.
15-0. Ali, unfortunately, kept boxing when he just should not have.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if you watch some of those later interviews, he was already going through the Parkinson's and stuff like that.
Right.
He wasn't as sharp and quick as he was, and he was still getting in the ring and getting punched in the head. That was worsening his condition.
Yes, it was.
So, unfortunately, that happened. Whereas Floyd is perfectly lucid and
Yeah, when Ali was fighting, they didn't have the type of endorsements like they do now. Yeah. So, he had to get out there in order to make the money, unfortunately.
He didn't have to. He just, he could have managed his money differently and stopped earlier if he wanted to. I think he just loved to fight. I think he wanted really to keep going.
You don't think it was money motivated? Because he was working with Don King. Because he was working with Don King at one point. And I don't know how those deals were going.
Yeah.
So I think the money might have been a little bit janky at that time. And
yeah,
you didn't know, like Floyd Mayweather has endorsement deals left and right.
Actually, he doesn't even do endorsements. Actually,
Floyd?
No, Floyd doesn't really do endorsements.
I always see Floyd advertising this random stuff.
No. He's even talked about it, how he doesn't have sponsorships. Think about it, he could have had his own sneaker, he could have whatever. No, like really, he's just been very smart business-wise. He owns tons of buildings and properties and all types of other stuff. Like, think about it. His fights, he's cleaned up.
Yeah.
He's won every fight, so he's taken the biggest purse. He's promoted his own fights. Like, Floyd is really like the blueprint of athletes for the future.
Yeah, he got with Al Heyman, which was a phenomenal promoter who keeps a very low profile, and Al Heyman's been around for a long time, and I've heard that Al has given him great advice and guided him in a spectacular way.
Yeah. Well, the Kendrick and Drake thing.
Yeah.
You felt it was about gatekeeping the culture. Explain.
What's interesting about Kendrick's song, Kendrick was really getting on Drake about not being from this lineage. And the whole song, They're Not Like Us, They Not Like Us, that song, a lot of people are looking at it as a way to gatekeep our lineage. He gets on Drake about having to come to Atlanta to get with the authentic black people in order to get swag. Kendrick clowned Drake for the whole slave comment.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know why Drake gave him that alley-oop in the diss record. He gave that to Kendrick, and Kendrick took it and ran with it. Like, you're mentioning the slaves, but you're a colonizer. You're acting like a colonizer. You're coming over here to our culture as basically foundational black Americans, going to a city like Atlanta, which was a prominent state during slavery. And you're getting with the former slaves in order to get your swag up so that you can act like us, but you're not like us. You're not like us. So that was a song really about lineage, because right now there's a big lineage movement right now. People are looking at our foundational black American lineage and looking at our culture and looking at the uniqueness of it. So all of that kind of ties in.
Well, yeah. Colonizer has become the new culture vulture. The culture vulture is the new honky. And you know what I mean? As the years progress, there's always going to be a name that white people get called. And, I've been called a colonizer a fair number of times since then. That's cool. But, I mean, listen, it's an incredible song. And, he did break down a lot of this strategically. And then when the video dropped, there was all types of little
this Easter eggs
messages and everything else like that. And I remember there was it Euphoria, where he basically tells Drake that he doesn't want to hear him say the N-word anymore?
Yeah. Because Drake, there's a video of Drake saying the N-word, and he says it with the hard ER, and it sounds weird. It sounds very weird.
When he was in Canada,
Yeah, saying the N-word with a hard ER and a Canadian accent, it just kind of, it was a cringy looking thing. And also when Drake did the whole blackface thing.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So Drake has done some questionable things that a lot of people could use against him, and Kendrick used all that stuff against him. Pusha T used it against him too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, no matter how you want to look at it, yes, Drake is mixed. He's got a black father and a Jewish mother. But he was raised basically how I was raised. You know what I mean? Because his black father wasn't the one that he was living with during the course of his childhood. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't in the home. It was his mom. He lived with his Jewish mom around his Jewish relatives in a Jewish area of Toronto. So he probably didn't start using the N-word until he started rapping later on. Is what I think.
That's why it sounds so weird.
Yeah. It's not like he was saying it around his mom. His mom would be like, yo, cut that out. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, he had a whole bar mitzvah and the whole...
He had a bar mitzvah, like me. So I'm saying it'd be almost like me using the N-word, which I never do. And it's like, I think that Kendrick kind of had a point. And I think it was on Family Matters where it starts off with his mom saying, I don't think I should start, I don't think you should use... Then he just started like doubling down and kind of use the N-word all through the song.
And then some people try to justify Drake's behavior by saying, well, his dad is a foundational Black American, so that would make Drake somewhat a foundational Black American. No, that Drake has foundational Black American lineage, but Drake is an immigrant. And that's different from being a foundational Black American. We're not immigrants.
He's a Canadian.
Yeah, but he still immigrated over here.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's much different. Way, way different. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this was Drake's first solid loss.
A major loss.
Yes.
And I had them as tying because Drake was giving his responses back. And Drake had some club bangers. And I said, man, the only thing that's killing Kendrick or stopping Kendrick from beating Drake, Kendrick don't have any club bangers. And then bam, he released They're Not Like Us.
That's a club banger.
Club banger.
Yeah.
The #1 song, man. The #1 song in the country is a diss record.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Nah, I feel you, man. Kendrick did his thing.
Yes,
then the
he did.
pop-out concert was almost like a victory lap. And
Oh, my
then
God.
the video.
The way they marketed that, but he never performed the song until he did that pop-out concert and then just made it, that just took it to a whole different level.
Yep. Well, you have a new documentary out, Microphone Check.
Yes.
Which I've actually watched the whole thing. So, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the point of the documentary was that hip-hop was created solely by foundational Black Americans.
That was the main point of the film.
And no other races.
Right. All of the elements of hip-hop, every single element, as we shown in the movie, was created by foundational Black Americans, and other people came and picked up on them later.
Okay, so, I mean, I've touched on this here and there, and it's interesting about the whole Jamaican aspect of it.
Right.
Right? Because I've actually said this publicly. I remember when I interviewed Sizzler back in the day, I think I mentioned that, he agreed with me and so forth about how, you know, there are some Jamaican roots in hip hop because Kool Herc is a Jamaican immigrant.
But he didn't bring anything culturally Jamaican to hip hop.
Okay, so this is an interesting argument, right? Now, was hip hop created by all Black people? Yes, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Now, where you kind of create a distinction was that it was created by Black people, but Latinos did contribute.
They came later.
They came later.
They were the first students of hip hop. They came almost a decade after it was created.
A decade though?
Yeah, they came like
so
late
those original groups where you had the one Latino guy, like was the what was like DJ Charlie Chase and stuff like that.
Late 70s.
That was late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s.
Well, 73 was the first hip hop party, so maybe five, 6 years later.
It's the first technical hip hop party, but they're saying, and we've alluded in the movie, that there were parties that would be known as hip hop later, going back to 70, 71, because Kool Herc, he's done interviews saying that he went to parties years before he had his and saw them playing break beats and saw people breakdancing. It was a club called the Plaza Tunnel in the Bronx. There was a DJ named John Brown that Herc said he saw playing break beats and people were breakdancing. The guy in the movie that we have the first breakdancer, guy named Trixie, he was breaking in 1970. So people were doing it in the early 70s. 73 is when Herc had his party. And what Herc did was just focus all on breakbeats. I'm just gonna play these Black folks, they like these breakbeats. I can't play Caribbean music. That's what he said. He said he couldn't play Caribbean music because we didn't like it. So he just focused on all of those breakbeats he heard other people playing. He said, I'll just keep playing these all night. So that's the thing that made Herc stand out.
Well, look, in Jamaican reggae culture, there is the selector, which is what Americans call the DJ, the guy that plays the records. And then there is the DJ, which is the guy on the mic, right? They call it a DJ in Jamaica. That sort of team of, you know, guy playing the music and the guy on the microphone, that was around before hip hop in Jamaica.
They were doing that in Brooklyn. You had people like Pete DJ Jones. He had an MC, KC the Prince of Soul. So we had that. And we also had DJs who would rap on the mic on radio stations back in the 1960s. That was a thing. Even though the term rapping, that was a term that we used in foundational Black American culture. James Brown rapped on some of his records. You had people like Pig Meat Markham rapping on records in the 1960s. So we were already doing that. We were rapping on records and having block parties and DJs shouting out over the mic and rapping and rhyming over the we were already doing that. In Herc's case, because Herc couldn't rap, or Herc couldn't really, and Grandmaster Flash either. Grandmaster Flash said he didn't like the way he sounded, so they would have to get other people to make announcements for them. That wasn't anything just out of Jamaica. They just wanted somebody who had more lyrical ability to speak for them and to get the crowd hyped up.
Well, yeah, Coke LaRock, who I've interviewed, was, I mean, most people, including himself, feel like he's like the first rapper.
Right, the first MC, because he did little rhymes, but it wasn't really rhyming on beat.
Yeah,
he didn't really
rhyme. Shout outs.
He was doing shout outs and clever shout outs. Like, if you're the place to be, come rock with me, say, that type of thing. The first person to really rap in rhymes over records is DJ Hollywood in hip hop, in hip hop. But even in the movie, as you saw, there's been like a little back and forth between the disco DJs and the hip hop DJs. A lot of the people who were considered disco DJs were somewhat dismissed, but they were instrumental in the creation of hip hop. But it all comes from foundational Black American culture. We didn't get anything, it wasn't anything that we got from Jamaica, the whole sound system thing. No, we had sound systems, we had speakers, we had all that stuff. You had DJs in Brooklyn who had the sound systems who were foundational Black Americans. So that was part of our culture. Block parties, we were doing block parties. In the movie, Microphone Check, we show a block party in Harlem, 1967, a bunch of Black people dancing in the streets. So we were always doing that stuff.
Well, I guess the question is because what does Kool Herc say? Because Kool Herc was not in the documentary.
Right. And we reached out and we couldn't get in touch.
Listen, I've had conversations with Kool Herc and it was, if you know Kool Herc, it was really, man, it was a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, I've heard.
He is all over the place. And he'll start bringing up outrageous things and it was like, I tried to get him for an interview. So, I mean, he did come over as a teenager. He is Jamaican. So, but he's never actually spoken on it himself, has he?
He's done interviews.
About that?
He's talked about, he's done interviews saying that he didn't play reggae music at all. He said that. He said he was on Combat Jack's show. You remember Combat Jack?
Of course.
Yeah, that's my good brother. Rest in peace to him.
Yeah.
And in the Combat Jack interview, he said that he saw somebody playing break beats in 1970, 71. It was a guy named John Brown. That was one of the first people he saw kind of doing what would later become hip hop. So this is him saying this stuff. So it was around. And even he's done other interviews saying, yeah, hip hop was around before my party, but in 73, that's when it became solidified. So he even Bambaataa acknowledged that hip hop was going on before that 73 party. So that's something that's been kind of common knowledge among some of the pioneers.
Well, you said that Fat Joe is disrespectful for saying that blacks and Latinos created hip-hop 50-50. Did you actually say 50-50?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that's just not true.
That's not true.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Fat Joe, but yeah. I mean, Latinos were around, but you can't say 50-50.
Not at all. Not at all. You can't even say 90-10. I mean, they came later. In the movie, all the pioneers, they were like, yeah, when we were doing it, there just were no Latinos participating. We had a couple in the audience watching, but they just came later. They just weren't into it early on. And that's the truth.
Yeah, and listen, you've had very prominent Latinos over the years. Crazy Legs, of course, Big Pun, and Fat Joe, and Cypress Hill, MC Frost. Like, there's been a lot of very important figures in hip-hop. But I guess if you're talking about the original, then yeah. It was all black people.
Right, and the thing that's rubbing a lot of people the right way, there's this whole push just suddenly for there to be this co-creation. Because now hip-hop is going to the Olympics, breakdancing is in the Olympics now, so now there's a big corporate drive and there's going to be a lot of corporate money there. So now hip-hop and breakdancing and b-boying is looked at as a positive. When black people were just doing it, it was like, oh, look at those Negroes on the floor. What are they doing? That's not real dancing, that's not real music. But now that it's being internationally accepted, they have to say, well, black people didn't really do it on their own. So they're doing hip hop like they do other genres. They do the same thing with rock and roll. It was negative until white people did it, and then rock and roll is a white thing. Country music, our sister Beyonce has a hot country album out now, and they're making it seem like she's co-opting somebody else's culture. Country music comes out of foundational Black American culture. So what happens is we let people come in and just take the culture and then turn us into guests in the culture, because that's what they're trying to do with the whole Latin situation. They want to go from Latinos were 50-50 to Latinos actually created breakdancing and black folks got it from them. That's where it's going. And that's where a lot of people are like, hey, let's put a timeout on this and back it up and tell the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that breakdancing is in the Olympics. I fell in love with hip hop breakdancing in the 80s in elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
And, but it seems like when you look at modern breakdancing, it's really run by the Asians now.
Yeah, a lot
the
of
Koreans,
them.
the Japanese, those are really in the forefront of breakdancing. So the fact that it's in the Olympics, I expect some Asians with gold medals at this point.
Oh, yeah. Because you had people like Poppin' Pete and Boogaloo Sam, some of these West Coast guys, they were over there in Asia for years teaching them a lot of those hip-hop moves. So, the Asians are great students, too.
Yeah. A$AP Rocky actually showed up at the premiere.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy.
That's dope.
Good guy. Real solid guy. Real solid guy.
Yeah. Now, you said that Dante Ross had an issue, and there was a tweet that's already been deleted, so I couldn't find exactly what he said. So what did he say?
What did he say? Because he was, me and him were going, he hopped in my mentions. I don't know how we got into it, but he was talking about all of the people who was there, and it wasn't just black. I'm kind of paraphrasing. Yeah, it was all of these other people who helped create hip hop too. It was on that type of thing. But he was talking about people in the 80s and 90s. He was doing the whole Big Pun and Mellow Man Ace and, talking about people who came later. So we were kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, I've had issues with Dante Ross over the years. When we met, he was real cool, and then he started talking shit about me. And then we had a conversation about it, and I thought it was quashed, and he continued to run his mouth. And it's like, Dante's one of these dudes, and you see this, in hip-hop. It's like the white guy who wants to be the only white guy. You know what I mean? He wants to be the only accepted white guy anywhere. And anyone else who steps in, like someone like me who comes in and makes a lot of noise and makes a big impact, he tries to downplay and basically say that he's the only authentic whatever. Listen, Dante has an A&R background, and he's, helped put together some dope albums, like, he A&R'd the Brand Nubian album, and, I think like Souls of Mischief and some other stuff that I've actually liked. So I approached him respectfully and got sort of disrespect back. So it was just like, all right, well,
yeah, my thing, again,
fuck you too, basically. That's how I look at it.
And because he has produced a lot of, and A&R'd a lot of legendary groups and legendary albums, he kind of feels like he can kind of jump up in the conversation, and you got to pump your brakes a little bit, because we're talking about something that has to do with our culture. We're talking about something that was created by foundational Black Americans. So just because you produced a few records, just because you got your black buddies, this ain't a conversation that you can just kind of bogart yourself into, because you don't really know the nuances of it.
Well, you talked about Sexy Red. You said if you don't have a balance, Sexy Red becomes a culture. This is what a lot of white supremacists like to do. They like to point to her and say, look at black culture.
Right.
You said the way the white media parades her around, I think, is problematic, because they're specifically trying to use a negative image of black women in order to justify harming black women. I actually disagree with you on this.
How so?
Okay, so I did an interview with Fredo Bang.
Okay.
Right? He's a regular on my show. I've interviewed him multiple times. Cool guy from Baton Rouge. And we brought up, Sexy Red in the conversation, and he said he feels that Sexy Red is most women's spirit animal. Meaning that most women really want to be like Sexy Red, but can't. You know what I mean? The women who work in corporate America, who have good jobs, they want to turn up and, act all wild like a Sexy Red. So when they see her, they kind of say, oh, okay, this is dope. This is something I wish I could do, but I can't.
I'll tell you the thing. Sexy Red is a lot of these females' spiritual animal.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, she's the side of them that they want to, like, that chick that's working as a nurse and the chick that's working in a law firm and stuff who can't really show too much, she the side of them that they wish they could just go run outside butthole naked and be ratchet and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that to a certain degree. I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree, because there's a freedom in being ratchet to a certain degree. There's a freedom, and you see this person who's unapologetically ratchet.
Yeah.
But there's a backlash to that too, and you have white executives who promote that, and they don't promote balance. In the 90s, we had balance. We had Lil' Kim, we had Foxy Brown. They were doing the ratchet thing.
Yeah.
But to balance it, we had Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, Yo-Yo. We had a balance to it.
Queen Latifah was a little bit earlier.
She was, but she was still doing her thing.
MC Lyte was a little bit earlier. They were more in the 80s.
No, Lyte had Roughneck, and those are 90s songs.
Yeah, but
UNITY, that's 90s.
Early
Ladies first.
90s. I felt like by the time that Kim and Foxy became stars, they pretty much dominated female rap.
No.
Really?
Not with Lauryn Hill, buddy.
Well, okay, Lauryn
Hill.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right about Lauryn Hill. No, Lauryn Hill killed everyone.
She killed the whole game. See, there was a balance.
She got all the Grammys,
right.
went diamond. No, you're right. No, you're right.
So
Lauryn Hill's actually my favorite female rapper of all time. Period, hands down.
So that's why the Foxy Browns and Lil' Kims, it didn't bother us that much then because you had this iconic sister who was dominating the game.
Yeah.
So there was a balance to it.
Okay.
Now we don't have nothing close to a Lauryn Hill right now. So all we get is Glorilla, Sexy Red, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Lotto. All of them are doing the exact same thing. And I'm not even knocking those women. I'm not knocking them. You got to get your money. You got to knock yourself out. But as far as the record industry, the music industry, they don't have a balance. And to show that image of sisters, and that's all you show, the backlash don't go to them. It goes to the community, because now when we see black girls are missing, black girls getting harmed, and people justifying it, those images are very important. And the thing is, I see a lot of the conservative people who like to prop up Sexy Red and say, oh, look at the black community. Oh, look at the black community. You know what's funny? There's a white girl now, the Hawk Tour girl, who they're making her a star now. They're about to give her a reality show.
Yeah, I heard.
Now, this woman is going viral for talking about oral sex.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not giving her the Sexy Red treatment. They're trying to low-key kind of humanize her. What's her background? How was her upbringing? Let's look at her family. So now they're trying to humanize her as an individual. But with Sexy Red, that's just black culture, and it's degenerate. So we get the negative stigma. But the Hawk 2 girl, she's going to be like the hooker with the heart of gold, like Pretty Woman. You make a movie about a white hoe. She's a pretty woman. Just put her in a dress. Don't worry, she's a hoe. She got a heart of gold.
Yeah, I just feel like with Sexy Red, her core audience is black women, I feel. I don't think men in general really are bumping Sexy Red.
No.
Right? No. I feel, and I don't think that white girls are really bumping Sexy Red.
They do.
Like
I've seen, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. Most, the audience for hip hop, man, is 80% white.
Yeah, but I feel like Sexy Red is more so, has the core black audience more so than other artists.
Yeah, but a lot of white people like all what they think is authentic niggatry. They like something, if it's ratchet, the more ratchet, the better. They think that's the most authentic part of black culture. They like ratchetness. That's why when they started doing Soundscan, 91, the first record that went number 1 was NWA, Niggas for Life. That record shot to number 1. That's when they realized how much rap music was selling. And they realized how much white people were buying rap records. So they had to step up the ratchetness right after that record.
Well, the first number 1 rap album is actually Beastie Boys.
Oh.
License to Ill.
Okay, right.
Which is an all-white group.
Right. But when
what was the second, though?
What was the second?
All right, here we go.
So what they say about the
number 1 rap albums historically? 1987, License to Ill. 1988, none. 1989, Toe Loc. Loked After Dark. Wild Thing was a huge song. Funky Cole Medina. That was not it was about sex to a certain degree, but it wasn't about violence or, anything else like that.
Right.
MC Hammer, 1990. Vanilla Ice, 91. I don't think NWA won number 1. Criss Cross, 92. Cypress Hill, 93. Snoop Dogg, 94. Tupac, Me Against the World, 95. All Eyes on Me, 96.
What the
Yeah,
N-word for life.
NWA.
When did it chart as? Because I know it shot up the charts and they saw that because it didn't get no radio play. There was no big promotion, but they saw that it was high up on the charts.
Because that was NWA's
The second album. The second
Yeah.
album. Not straight out of Compton. The Niggas for Life.
It's like I mean, I remember. I mean, that was, you know.
'Cause I know it shot up and that they changed the whole game because of that, because of Soundscan.
It did go #1.
Okay, that's
But
what I
this
thought.
was what year? 91.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't the first one, but it was early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess Vanilla Ice and that NWA album.
Yeah.
Both went #1.
Yeah. But when they saw that went #1, and the Vanilla Ice, I mean, these guys had just a ton of promotions all over the place. NWA, it was no radio. They like very,
That album,
very
no.
few.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Straight Outta Compton had Express Yourself and some
Yeah.
other stuff. But yeah, you're right. No, it wasn't like Ice Ice Baby. Ice
Right.
Ice Baby was on every radio station.
Right.
Rock, hip hop, international, everything.
And then you saw this album that didn't really get any radio play, and this was an album, just a bunch of cursing and gangster stuff, and it shot to #1 like that. They were like, okay, this is the business model. We don't have to invest a lot of money, and we can get huge returns on these records.
Yeah. And I mean, like bringing it back to women, it's interesting, especially in hip hop, where like you look at all the top females, they all sell sex.
Yeah.
They all have their bodies done. I mean, well,
Coi Leray didn't.
but she's not a #1 album.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Coi Leray can't go on a Megan Thee Stallion level tour.
Right.
And sell out, shows like she does. Coi Leray is, doing her thing. I've interviewed her before. But like, I mean, Megan, I guess, is natural, but like, she definitely is almost naked, every time you see her.
But Megan can really rap, though.
She can,
Yeah,
but
she can really-
Ice Spice,
Yeah.
always twerking. Lotto, of course, Nicki Minaj. It's interesting that all the top females are all basically naked
Yeah.
whenever you see them. But you look at the top male artists, none of them are really selling sex like that. You see what I'm saying?
Nobody want to see nobody want to see
Well,
from a
no.
dude.
I mean, when 50 Cent came out, he always had his shirt off. He was greased up in music videos.
He was selling gangsterism, and gangsterism, people look at that as sexy to a certain
Well,
degree.
no, but he was literally selling his body and everything else like
As
that.
a gangster, like, hey, look at my body. I got shot 9 times.
Right.
And look, I'm still here, and I'm still strong, and I'm still gangster. And so what up?
Well, no,
so
but I'm saying,
the
but
whole
there's
thing.
been a lot of male artists over the years who do take their shirts off.
50
and,
wasn't twerking with his shirt
No,
off.
he wasn't
though.
twerking, but
Right, that's the big difference.
he definitely was a sex symbol in his own right. You don't think
Right.
so?
No. Your sex symbol as far as like as a
Two
gangster,
women. Two
like,
women.
right,
Two
as
women.
a gangster.
Right, but when
he
you
wasn't
look at,
trying to be sexy.
you look
it
at
wasn't
the
like
current-
Lil Nas X. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a whole different.
You see what I'm saying?
That's a whole different lane. He's catering. He's not catering to women.
Right.
I'm just saying some male artists, male rap artists, they cater to women in terms of like Chris Brown. A lot of R&B guys do this.
Yeah.
R&B guys are always pouring water on themselves and whatever
But
else.
that's what
But
Tupac said. Tupac
was definitely a sex symbol.
Right.
And he definitely pushed that part.
He said, "Hey, you gotta make records for the bitches. Make records,
Right.
Yeah, right." So
But
yeah,
when you look at all the top tier male rappers, when you look at the big three, like Kendrick mentioned, Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, you don't see none of them with their shirts off.
right,
Ever. Nor do I think you want to see that shit.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, they're not even really fashionable, like if you think about it.
Right.
Not like a Kanye or whatever else. Like, no one really wants to dress like Drake or even Kendrick for that matter, or J. Cole. They're really getting by with strictly content,
right. Lyrics.
impacts, rhyme styles. Very different from a female. It's
Right.
a stark difference from a Lotto who, talked about how she got her body done at 21.
See, what makes to a woman, what makes a male rapper sexy is the success. That's why they flaunt money and cars.
Yeah.
Like Rick Ross has his shirt off, but he's a big old dude. But hey, look at all this money I got. Look at all these cars I have, and women are still choose up on it. So women are turned on by the success that the men portray. So they portray, hey, look, I'm a very successful, rich rapper. I got a jet, I got a car. So that's the sex symbol part with them.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, the Diddy thing is happening.
Oh, yeah.
And you said that Diddy was targeted. Explain.
Yeah, when Diddy started doing lawsuits about this liquor company racially discriminating against him, that's when everything fell all down. Because Diddy, well, he's been accused of doing all of this stuff for years and years and years. So, like, why now? All of a sudden, there's a big media rush to demonize him, just all of a sudden. And I think it has something to do with that lawsuit he put out against that liquor company. And these are like big time billionaire people. So, you know, they're like, hey, we'll show you who to play that game with. We'll yank your chain.
Well, you could say that, but from my point of view, the Cassie lawsuit, when that got filed and everyone got to read through it, I read through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've interviewed Roger Bonds, who was the security and everything else like that. So I literally went through it with a fine-tooth comb. When that that lawsuit got filed and everyone got to read through it, and Diddy settled that shit in like 3 hours.
That opened the door.
That opened the door to a lot. And, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, you know, this is about money. And listen, every civil lawsuit is about money.
Of course.
Right? Because no one's going to jail over a civil lawsuit. So it is about money, but a lot of people were questioning, oh, why now? You were with him for 10 years and so forth. But then that video came out.
Oh, yeah.
When you saw that video, what'd you think?
Oh, yeah, he's done. That's the nail in the coffin. He's done. When that video came out, and they were sitting on that video for years. I think Perez Hilton said something, well, they recently paid and they raided the house and got that. No, I think they've had that video for years and they were just waiting on it to come on out or waiting for the right time to bring it out, which is, I think, for a lot of black people or people in general who are wealthy, they got some dirt on them and they kind of sit back on something and say, okay, when you get out of line, we can pull this out on you and bring you back to earth. So I think they've been sitting on that for a while and just waiting on the right time to bring that out on him.
Well, yeah, it was from 2019, I think.
I think it was like 2015? Something like that. I thought it was 2015.
2016.
16, okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, according to the lawsuit, Diddy paid $50,000 to get that video. But, you know, when you pay over extortion, people usually keep a copy for themselves.
Yes, they do.
So,
So
I've always felt that way. If you want to extort me, just go ahead and put it out.
They don't do it anyway.
I'm not going to keep paying you for you to put it out anyways after I can't pay you anymore. So, you know, yeah, you know, and he put out the apology video, which a lot of people weren't too happy with.
Right.
But, yeah, and right now he's being, you know, there's a grand jury. I mean,
they're gonna. Sounds like they're gonna do some kind of RICO on him. They got that one guy who they said it was his drug mule and all of that stuff. So when they're tying in, they're saying these things for a reason. They're saying drugs, trafficking. They're throwing these keywords out here so that potential jurors will equate that with RICO, racketing, organized crime. So they're gonna put some kind of weird RICO charge on the guy pretty soon, and that's unfortunate. You know, if he did something on an individual level, just treat them like that. But when they start getting black artists and doing all of these RICO charges, I'm not a big fan of that. Like R. Kelly, I'm not some of the stuff R. Kelly was doing, I ain't cool with that. But to put a RICO charge on him, that's something else.
Well, I mean, that's what a documentary will do to you. A documentary will bury you.
Yeah.
You know? And, 50's working on the Did He Do It documentary right now.
Yeah.
Because R. Kelly was living his best life up until Surviving R. Kelly came out.
Yep.
Think about it.
Yep.
In fact, he had his biggest hits after everyone saw that peeing video.
Yeah. When Step in the Name of Love, that came out, people forgot all about that.
The Ignition remix. R. Kelly was on fire.
Yeah.
And then that video, I mean, the documentary really was like because like law enforcement is reactive. It's not
and prosecutors too. Was the prosecutor really trying to get his name up? What's the prosecutor's name in Chicago who was really?
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't think of his name, and I think he got indicted for something too. That prosecutor. So I think he was trying to do something big to get the heat off of him too. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Do you think that Diddy will go to prison?
I think so. Unfortunately,
yeah,
I think so. Yeah, because the media propaganda against him is so heavy right now. And if they come out with a Diddy documentary, that's going to blow all the way up.
Yeah.
That's all they need to do now. So yeah, I think they're going to have a RICO case against the guy.
Well, you've warned black people about Kanye. You said he'll go back. He's not speaking up for us.
Yeah, Kanye, I'm kind of mixed on Kanye because I've seen some of his behavior, and it seems like there's some real mental stuff going on there.
Oh,
like, yeah. So, I kind of given him some leeway seeing some of his behavior, and I think that a lot of that has to do with some kind of bipolar condition. So I kind of give him a little slack, and I like Kanye. I'm a fan of Kanye, and I don't want to see people exploit whatever mental thing that he has going on. So I kind of give him a little leeway. And when he was hanging out with Candace Owens and people like that, I said, oh, that's a bad look. And Nick Fuentes and all of these weird people. I said, oh, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, well, Candace Owens, she blocked you at one point.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Blocked me for years.
I was, not that we ever scheduled it, but people had brought the idea of interviewing Candace to me a couple times, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Candace Owens is the face that white people justify racist behavior.
Right.
Look, Candace says that George Floyd died from a drug overdose.
Right.
So
they get to blame a black person. Oh, I'm not saying it. Candace is saying
Candace
it.
says a black person even says it.
Right.
And that to me kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Right. That's why I won't debate people like that, because the arguments are in bad faith. They're basically acting as mouthpieces for white supremacist think tanks. So the arguments are in bad faith. So when I do get around those guys, like Jesse Lee Peterson, he's a very well-known Sambo.
Yeah, I know
I've done Jesse's show, and I have fun because I don't take him seriously. I kind of rib him about being a sellout, so I turn it into a fun thing. But having a real debate with somebody who's what we call shadow boxing for white supremacy, that's kind of a waste of time. I'd rather go to the white supremacists and debate them.
Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, I debate white supremacists all the time.
Really? I mean, like actual on video? Or just online?
On my thing, online. I've challenged a lot of them to in-person recorded debates, and a lot of them don't want to do that. A lot of them like to just kind of keep it on a troll level so they can tap out to a certain degree, because a lot of these guys, they can't really stand up to their white supremacist views. It always devolves into some kind of trollish nonsense.
Well, yeah, after we had that whole situation with me, you, and Tommy Sotomayor, because I guess Tommy went on a whole rant about it and everything else like that, and David Duke actually chimed in about it. And I'm like, God damn, David Duke, the Grand Wizard, is talking about me? Like, he's actually mentioned my name in some of his tweets, and I'm like, God damn.
Wow.
The KKK is talking about me. This was not on my bingo card, but yeah, I mean, I guess David Duke is a fan of Tommy.
Yeah.
Which doesn't totally surprise me.
Wow.
But Tommy's also anti-Semitic and, said a bunch of stuff about Jews and anything else like that. So it's like, you keep all that. Well, you said that the FBI has visited you multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
So they've showed up at your door.
Oh, yeah. Multiple times.
Over what?
Man, first time they came to me asking about Micah Johnson. You remember Micah Johnson was the brother down in Dallas who shot a bunch of cops.
Okay.
And they went around to a lot of black influencers. I think they went to my brother Boyce. They went to Zoe Williams. They went to a lot of different influencers, kind of really trying to intimidate us, but acting like, hey, did you guys know of this guy? Did he ever correspond with you? I'm like, no. We're just asking, no big deal. We just wanted to see who he was in contact with. I said, okay, this is some kind of intimidation thing or something. Another time they came to me about a guy who shot up a subway in New York, and the guy followed me on social media. So I'm like, dude, I got like millions of people who follow me on social media. I don't know everybody. I don't know their motives. So they were asking me, did I ever correspond with that guy? So little stuff like that, they come to me about,
Okay, but you've never been arrested or charged or anything else like that?
No.
Well, but didn't you get banned from the UK?
Yeah, I'm still banned.
You can't go to the UK?
I can't go to the UK.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Over what specifically?
Their official response was, my presence is not conducive to the good of society in the UK. That's vague as hell. We were going to go over there for my movie Hidden Colors 5. We were going to go over there. We had a big screening set up, and we're about to get on the plane. We're like literally on the plane. Well, we're about to walk on the plane, and then the airport manager, well, the airline manager came and gave me a printout like, hey, we can't take you to the UK. You're banned from the UK, and we'll get sued if we take you. I'm like, what? So I got on the phone. We're calling the home office, and we're just on the phone with them for hours trying to figure it out. And they're like, yeah, you can't come here. You're banned. Your movie can't be shown here. It was a whole thing. And we're still trying to get that stuff figured out now. We're still trying to get, because now when I travel internationally, I can't even stop over in Britain. Meaning if I take a flight, if I have a layover, they'll come get me off the plane and lock me up over there. So I have to go to Italy and France, and I have to travel around the UK when I'm traveling internationally. And I don't want to have to do all that shit. So we're still trying to get all that sorted out to this day.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've been following what you've been doing over the years, and there's nothing, honestly, that's so egregious to be banned from an entire country.
Right.
You never said, I want all black people to kill white people or anything else like that. Nothing of that sort.
Right.
You know, being pro-black doesn't mean you're anti-white.
Right.
I mean, look, you're sitting on a white-owned platform right now.
Right.
Like, and we're having a reasonable conversation.
And I think they think because I have a big audience there and here, because I did a lecture out there. It was a sold-out arena over there. They got a big audience there. So they're like, if this guy has this kind of influence, we don't want this guy to come over here and possibly say something that'll turn these folks up. Because our UK brothers and sisters, they will turn up. They'll get their knives out and get to poking at the drop of a hat. They turn up in the UK. Don't think because they talk like Peppa Pig that they won't get out there and get to poking people. They get busy out there. So they're like, we don't want you riling nobody up out there.
I hope it gets fixed, man.
I hope so too,
London
man.
is dope.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of good times out there.
I love it. My kids want to go out there, and I have to explain why I can't go. You know?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You said that the starting point for reparations for foundational Black Americans is $20 trillion.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, full disclosure, I remember a while back, I think this was maybe after our interview, I said, I support reparations for Black people, possibly in the form of free education. And people got on me on that.
As they should. They should have gotten your ass.
And my justification was, well, I don't think that America can come up with what they really should pay without bankrupting the country. After that happened, it was after our interview, because now I'm figuring out the timeline. Then COVID hit, and I saw the type of checks that America was handing out.
Yeah.
So I publicly said, I apologize. I misspoke.
Yes.
I've said this
now,
publicly.
how do you feel about reparations right now to foundational Black?
I'm all for it.
Okay. In the form of cash.
Yes.
Okay.
I've said this publicly.
Okay.
Listen, we all make mistakes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We all say something, and then, my whole thing is, we all make mistakes, but if there's new information, you should absorb it and potentially modify your stance. New information came in. I saw what happened during COVID and how trillions of dollars were, I don't know about trillions, but billions of dollars were handed out. And I'm like, okay, there really is the money for this.
Absolutely.
When they need it.
Over in the Ukraine, they're sending billions to the Ukraine.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, my original thought was off. And I publicly said I'm wrong. And I do actually believe in cash.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? The amount, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I felt, I admit it. I was wrong.
Yes.
And I'll stand on being wrong.
There you go.
And I'd rather...
Vlad has admitted he was wrong about reparations.
Right. Well, I'd rather admit that I'm wrong than to not grow as a human being.
Right.
To just sit there and come up with excuses and so forth.
Yes, indeed.
Now, you said that reparations should look the same way as they do with Native Americans.
Yep.
Checks, land grants, tax-free, casinos, own their own police force and hospitals. But to be fair,
yes,
Native Americans have the highest poverty rate of any racial group in the United States. According to the 2021 U.S. Census, 12.4% of Native Americans and Native Alaskans live in poverty compared to 11.3% of blacks, 11.2% of Hispanics, 5.7% of white non-Hispanics. And the poverty rate is actually even higher for Native Americans who live on reservations, which is as high as 36%. So my thing is that if you're trying to model this after Native Americans, it worked out very poorly for them.
No, because man, some of those Native Americans, and I've been on some of those lands and those reservations, they got beautiful schools. I was in Arizona, they got schools, hospitals, police forces over there. They're doing absolutely fine. They got them casinos that are raking in all types of money. They bring in millions of dollars in those casinos. They're bringing in the Whispers and Evelyn Champagne King. Okay, I want to be poor like that then. Give me that kind of poor so I can have a casino and bring in groups and make them. No, they're fine.
I understand your point, but I think what's actually happening is that a small group of them have benefited. But when you look at them as a whole, they really are the poorest racial group in the country. I don't think you could really debate that.
And here's another thing. A lot of the people that's classified now as Native American are really white people. And they're not that poor. You have a lot of white people with Indian cards now. White people ran a finesse game in the early 1900s when they had something called the Dawes Rolls, where it was an Indian census. They had to bring the people in to get on the Indian roll to allot land to them. White people said, oh, you're giving away free land, and they got $5 and gave people $5 under the table and said, hey, list me as a Cherokee. And that's the term $5 Indian, meaning a fake Indian. So a lot of white people started pretending to be Native American. That was a real big thing in the early 1900s. You remember the Crying Indian, that commercial in the 70s? It was an Indian talking about pollution, and there was a tear going down his eye. Yeah, there was a real, very popular commercial.
I remember,
You remember that, Big? Remember that? Very popular commercial. That was a guy named Iron Eyes Cody. He was a big actor in the 1940s and 50s, big Native American representative. Turned out he wasn't even Native American at all. His ass is Sicilian. He was a Sicilian immigrant. So that's been a finesse game for a long time. White people pretending to be Native American to get all types of benefits and resources from it. So as far as us as foundational Black Americans, we're talking about the template of how they're paying the Native Americans the reparations they're supposed to give them. We're not going to squander the money. We're not going to let that money get screwed off. We're going to do phenomenal things, and I think we will stimulate the economy with reparations checks.
It's hard to say because, as you know, and as I know, you have to learn how to handle money. I went broke the first time I made some money. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you read books like Richest Man in Babylon, they sort of show and illustrate how these things are, where you have to learn how to handle thousands of dollars and then learn how to handle tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, then millions. If you give someone millions of dollars who's never learned how to handle tens of thousands, they're not going to know what to do with that money. This is not a race thing. I went broke. You know what I mean? I went homeless at one point because I thought, oh, I'm making money now, I'm going to keep making it forever. A lot of lottery winners, I think the majority of lottery winners end up going bankrupt because you can't just give someone a bunch of money. You have to learn how to build up and how to handle it at every point. If you suddenly give someone a bunch of money who's used to having no money, they're going to splurge, right?
Some people will, but
I think most people will. I think it's human nature. You've been dreaming about these material items your whole life, and suddenly, I mean, look what happened during the pandemic. All these people were suddenly given a bunch of money, these PPP loans that they didn't deserve a lot of times, and suddenly you can't go into a Rolex dealership and buy a Rolex anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there were people who were starting businesses with that, so people did some good things with it.
I know, but there was a lot. There was a lot of squandering. I've interviewed some of these guys, like, you know, Baby Blue from Pretty Ricky. Like, he went and bought Ferraris and ended up in jail. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like this was really happening.
Right. And the thing is, we have so much ingenuity. We've been dealing with economic situations for a long time and making ends meet and doing something with nothing. So many of us are not going to squander the money off. If people want to get their reparations and squander it off, let them do it. That's going to circulate in the economy anyway. But
not into the Black economy, though. It's going to go into back in the corporate system.
But that's going to help the entire American economic system, which is good. The money's not going to be thrown out into another country somewhere.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. As long as it's circulating here. And again, there's so many Black people with so much ingenuity. There are going to be people starting businesses, people making investments, people doing great things. We've always done that. We've created Black Wall Streets and Central Avenues and Wilmingtons. We've always done that. And yeah, you've had people who trick the money off. So, there's always going to be a balance. That's the great thing about Foundation of Black American Culture. We got the people that's going to front and floss and stunt. Then we got the people that's going to invest and build and do other things for the community. So we got a big spectrum of people within our community where we're not going to be pigeonholed.
Well, I hope that if it does actually happen, one of the requirements for actually getting the money is to go through some financial literacy classes first.
They don't do that with no other groups. Don't do it to us. They don't do that.
I understand.
Damn that,
and I understand
Vlad.
how they don't.
No,
but I
Vlad,
feel
no.
like, listen, without financial literacy, everyone's going to get messed up.
They're not giving financial literacy classes to these immigrants coming over here getting debit cards. They're not giving them no damn financial literacy classes.
Listen, it's probably, you're probably right. And it
Right.
probably
They're
won't
just
happen.
giving them money. No,
but
give us the money too.
In the same sense that I interview all these athletes
Mm-hmm.
who become millionaires in their late teens, early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and completely blow it. And on top of that, most times they'll have people stealing from them.
Yeah.
Because they'll go, they got this money, they'll get this
Get their
financial
homeboy as their
advisor,
manager. They do, yeah.
or they'll get that financial advisor who they think, looks official. I have yet to interview an athlete who hasn't had a financial advisor steal from them. Almost every single time. So yes, I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope that it does, because I think that overall, everyone will benefit way more.
Right.
Here's how the stock market works. It's not the same as gambling. You're actually buying a piece of a company with this stock, so you should know that. You know what I'm saying? Before you go and take it to the casino because you think it's the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Right.
This is how 401ks work. This is how interest rates work and so forth. If you know that coming in, I wish I had taken financial literacy classes before I first started making money. You're right. They don't require anyone else to do that. I'm just saying it'll be beneficial to everyone if it does.
But understand, in every industry, you're going to have people, like in the rap game, there's rappers who buy dumb stuff, and then you have the rappers like the 50 Cents, the Cam'rons, you have the Birdmans, people who do phenomenal things with the money.
Yeah, but Birdman has wasted so much money over the years. I remember, and I know Birdman, we talk. Someone like a Birdman is able to be so successful because they continue to keep making money decade after decade after decade. I remember TK Kirkland said something interesting because he used to open up for him, he used to tour around with him. He said Birdman is the first person he met that just didn't respect money. Meaning that he went to one of Birdman's houses, and there was like 7 Range Rovers, and all of them were sitting on flat tires because nobody's driven them for like 2 years.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? I went to studios in Atlanta, and they told me that Birdman rented out the main studio for a month and has never even shown up. And that works if the money keeps coming.
Right.
You can fuck off all the money you want if you got millions next year. But when you get one shot, when you get one payment, and you got to make account for the rest of your life, if you don't have financial literacy and you act like Birdman, you're going to have a very sad future. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
And we do need people like, the Al Haymans and people like that guiding the Floyd Mayweathers, because Floyd is doing great things. So again, we got people out here who will do the right thing, and you got people who will trick it off. And if they want to trick it off, let them trick it off. It's their right to do so.
You're right.
You dig? If the Native Americans are tricking off their money and drinking it up.
And that's what's been happening. You see what I'm saying? Like the 36.
And they're still giving them money.
To have a 36% poverty rate on reservations is insane.
And they're still giving them money. That's the thing I'm saying. Give me mine too. I ain't going to be drinking and smoking on the reservation. I'm going to be building. I'm going to have a casino with Evelyn Champagne King performing every week.
Well, you spoke about Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yeah.
I've interviewed him before.
Oh, yeah.
He said some words about me. I've responded. When he said that you can never be the greatest rapper if you're not African, do you agree or disagree?
Kind of to a certain degree. I agree, because you got to have and I would say you can't be you got to have, you got to have black ancestry because it's the spirit, just the spirit of it. You got to have that, and you have that spirit as a black person. Now, Eminem, is he good? Great. Eminem, I love Eminem. Eminem is good. Eminem is good, but a lot of people equate rapping fast with rapping good. He's a good rapper. He's a good rapper. I think, and I love Eminem, I think Royce is better. I think Royce is better than Eminem, lyrically, content-wise, but Eminem is more marketable because his rhymes are more humorous, and he's white. And I think that has a lot to do with him. And to be a true MC, you kind of have to come from the lineage.
I understand that argument. I mean, I feel like Eminem doesn't evoke emotions
Right.
like a Jay-Z does or a Nas does. Technically, I don't think it's just rapping fast. It's about the way that he puts his words together, which I think is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Dre said he's the greatest rapper of all time.
That's his artist.
Yeah, but he has lots of artists. He could have said Snoop. He could have said Ice Cube.
Eminem is his biggest selling
artist. He could have
artist.
said Kendrick.
Right.
No, and Kendrick is his artist.
Yeah.
Kendrick is signed to Aftermath. Well, he was signed to Aftermath. He could have said a lot. Like I said, he could have said Kendrick. And everyone would be like, oh, yes, Dre, we love you, Dre. But he said Eminem. And you're not going to say that Dre doesn't know what he's talking about because Dre, most people in hip-hop would consider him the greatest producer of all time.
Yeah.
Would you?
I would. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you got someone who has more hip-hop musical knowledge than you and I combined times 100 saying that this guy, who happens to be his artist, is the best rapper of all time out of all the other stellar artists that he has.
If I had an artist who was my biggest artist and who basically saved my record label, because Eminem saved Aftermath. Remember, that first Aftermath
2001
release
was all Eminem, yeah.
Right. That first, and he had Aftermath records out before. There were some records that were even scrapped. The King T album
was scrapped. I mean, Aftermath
phenomenal
Presents.
album, by the way. Phenomenal album.
I love King T, man.
Yeah.
And Aftermath Presents was a flop.
Yes, it was.
I remember.
Yes, it was.
Been there, just done that was, for Dre standards, it was not what we were expecting.
Right.
You're right. Eminem came in.
Came along and took it to the roof. Took it to a whole different level, became his biggest selling artist. So yes, I'm going to say that motherfucker is the best.
Yeah, but I don't feel like Dre is really driven by money like that.
Probably
you see what
not
I'm saying?
now.
Like, Dre is essentially a billionaire, right? At this point. I don't feel he's gonna, well, if I say Kendrick, I'm going to lose all this future Eminem money. I don't think he really cares at this point. I thought it was an honest answer from someone that we all admire.
Yeah.
I mean, who is your top 3 white rappers of all time?
White rappers?
Yes.
Oh, man. Do I have a top?
You've never been asked this question before.
Nobody's never asked that. Now,
That's
Eminem,
right.
he would be number 1 because
Okay.
Eminem can rap, and I like Eminem.
Don't even
Who?
put in an order. Just your top 3 white rappers in any order.
White rapper, man. Who the hell is a good white rapper? How many white rappers are out there?
There's a lot.
What's the guy that
Do you want to throw out some names?
throw some names out? Because Jack Harlow.
There's Jack Harlow.
Yeah, I like him.
There's the Beastie Boys.
Throw some more names.
There's Yellow Wolf. There's Lil Dicky. There's Post Malone. You can kind of consider him a rapper, although he's more of a singer.
Who
There's
else?
Everlast from House of Pain. There's Paul Wall. There's Machine Gun Kelly. There's Mac Miller.
All of these guys are on the
Jack
same
Harlow,
level.
like you said.
I like Jack because his songs are kind of catchy. But as far as white rappers with like any type of hellified lyrical content, I can't really think of him.
I mean, Eminem kind of stands out.
He really stands out.
Eminem really, there's
And
really
all-
not anyone close to him.
Right, and all those other guys are just basically on the same level. You know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say Mac Miller. I mean, he died early, of
Right,
course,
right.
but I felt that he had some really impactful music. I love the Beastie Boys, so I'll put Ad Rock in my list.
Yeah, they were more. I wouldn't give them like lyrical agility. They had fun party
They're
rhymes
party
that were
rappers.
catchy.
Yeah.
And that License to Ill album, phenomenal album. But
Paul's
lyrically,
Boutique was one of my favorite albums of all time.
But lyrically, they weren't doing anything spectacular lyrically. I'm trying to think of a white rapper who's doing something spectacular on a lyrical level. You know what? You know who I give credit to? Lyrically? What's the white girl from Australia?
Iggy Azalea.
Yeah. I give her a little something.
I was going to mention her, but I just thought you would kind of downplay her.
No, actually, because she can rap better than a lot of these white dudes, you know?
Yeah, I think what hurts Iggy is that she's Australian and she raps
rapping in a southern voice,
a black accent, essentially.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like when you turn the mic off and you speak to her and you interview her and suddenly the Australian accent comes back, you're like, well, why not just do the Australian accent?
Right. And that's the thing that hurt her career. Just like with the Beastie Boys. Remember, the Beastie Boys, they tried to dress like Run DMC early on. And Russell,
in the first album, yeah.
Yeah, and Russell was like, no, take that shit off and put on your dungarees, put on your jeans, just be white boys. And that was more authentic, and that's how they blew up. Just like with Eminem. I think Eminem might have been trying to do that whole thing as well, and I think Dre probably wanted him, hey, just rap about white boy shit. And that worked.
No, he was rapping about white boy shit before. Because I had purchased the Slim Shady EP before he got signed.
Okay.
And it was essentially the exact same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, like some of those songs made it onto the Aftermath album.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like he had already gotten into his pocket by the time Dre found out about him.
Okay.
And it was really like he embraced the white boy shit, the trailer park shit, the taking pills and, you know, beating up your baby mother.
Right. You know, because I've seen battle raps of Eminem back in the 90s, and he was doing the whole white boy thing, and it was working for him. He was killing dudes with that shit, too.
Yeah.
Well,
yep.
So that he used that to his advantage. You know, that stood out.
He did, man. And, you know, he's had a hell of a career.
Yes, he has.
I mean, he's still charting to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You said refusing to vote is a strategy for black people.
Mm-hmm.
So are you not going to vote?
No, unless somebody comes with tangibles for us specifically, I'm going to hold my vote. I'm going to be very strategic with it. They got this whole thing where they try to shame us into voting. Black people, they don't do that to other groups. They don't shame other groups and say, hey, if you don't vote, you're not this, you're not that. They only come to us to shame us into voting, but they don't offer us anything.
Well, but is it because there was a time where black people weren't allowed to vote and actually had to sacrifice sometimes their lives for the ability to vote?
Right.
Other groups didn't have that.
Right.
Asians could always vote. Latinos could always vote. The Irish could always vote. But black people were barred from voting. So the argument is like, yo, like the ancestors literally lost their lives for this ability. Why would you not use it when you have it?
Right, but they didn't want us to vote for nothing. They wanted us to vote for a reason. They wanted us to vote to get something. After the 1960s, the politicians started to implement this benign neglect thing where they were going to make black people invisible and not even address black people's needs. They were going to use these real vague, ambiguous words like minority, people of color, diversity, and that gives the illusion that they're doing something for black people. And what happens is they start saying, hey, man, black folks, y'all come vote so we can get this minority bill going. And we're like, oh, cool. And then we go fight and go vote in large numbers. And then we see all of these other groups getting all of these tangibles. And we're like, hey, where's ours? And they're like, oh, we didn't promise you anything. We said minorities. That Asian woman is a minority. The gay white man is a minority. That person is a minority. So we're not playing that game no more. We want people to specifically address our needs as foundational black Americans because we have a unique experience here, just like other groups. And they make sure that they're taken care of. And we have been the voting bloc for the Democratic Party for the last 50, 60 years. So our needs need to be addressed.
I mean, certain, people like Candace Owens has done the whole Blexit thing where it's like basically trying to get black people to leave the Democratic Party and to join the Republican Party.
Right, and that's not a strategy either because the Republican Party, they're not really offering anything either.
Yeah, but it seems like Trump has had a plan to really cozy up to black people this time around. Like the fact that he did a rally in the Bronx and he brought out Chef G and Sleepy Hollow. Chef G, I believe, is on bond over some serious crimes right now.
Wow.
And then he went to Philly and he got this underground Philly rapper. And, it's like, he even said And some people have even agreed with him. Like Boosie has agreed that like him catching a felony has made black people more sympathetic to him.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe.
From his point of view.
Right,
this is
right.
Boosie's point of view.
Right.
This is not speaking for everyone.
Because
this is
a lot of the people on the Fox News crowd, they're like, well, yeah, black people like him because he's a felon now, and black people love felons. And
right.
that's
it's a racist
trope.
It's a racist trope, and I get that.
Right.
But I feel like beyond just that, people seem to like Trump a lot more this time around than 4 years ago.
Right, they do. And I will give Trump credit. Trump will at least speak to black people. He will mention us. Trump has said, hey, black people, they built this country. Biden has never said that. The Democrats have never really said that. See, Trump is saying a lot of stuff that we would like the Democrats to say. So when people try to say, well, damn, don't vote for Trump because Trump is a big old racist, I'm like, well, damn it. If Trump is a racist, what are you? You're not even doing what he's doing. And he's at least acknowledging us to a certain degree, you see?
Yeah, I mean, look, after watching that debate,
Oh, yeah, that was
and
brutal.
seeing Biden with his mental capacities nowhere near where they were 4 years ago during that debate, I don't see myself voting for Biden.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Biden
I just
is
feel
gone.
like he's not lucid anymore.
Right.
Like, although they're similar ages, he's like senile at this point. And imagine 4 years ago where he's going to be.
Right, right. And what they're going to do, they're going to put Biden around a lot of black people. They're going to put him around a lot of black folks to kind of save him and prop him up. And they do that with old white people anyway. Old white people, when they get senile, y'all get rid of your old white people. Y'all send them to blacks. They always have black nannies and shit. So y'all send them to the black people to take care of. And we got to wipe their asses and all of that stuff. So yeah, they're going to have him around a lot of black folks. They have him in black churches right now, parading him around because, you know, we kind of take care of the sickly and senile white people. So,
Well, you've been on No Jumper before.
many times.
And Adam's my man. And right now, you know, they're trying to cancel him over doing the interview with one of the guys who was responsible for Pop Smoke's murder.
Yeah. Would you have interviewed that guy, Vlad? Let's keep it a buck.
Well, let me say this.
All right.
Some years back, I interviewed this guy named No Plug, who was responsible for killing the rapper Bankroll Fresh. It's a slightly different situation because essentially in the interview, No Plug explained that it was self-defense.
Okay.
They got into an altercation in the studio. They drove off. He came back to get a cell phone. And Bankroll Fresh had pulled out like a AK-47 and started waving it around and actually shot first. They returned fire. Bankroll Fresh died. He turned himself into the police. They investigated. They went through the footage. They saw that it was self-defense. And people absolutely hated me over doing the interview because Bankroll Fresh was more popular at the time. But my thing was, this was self-defense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remember me and Charlamagne had a big falling out. We didn't talk for years over that situation. But some years later, TMZ released the footage, and what I said was right. You actually see Bankroll Fresh waving around a rifle. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this guy was basically justified, you know, listen, you shoot at me, I'm going to try to kill you. Like, this is how life works in my book. And, you know, me and Charlamagne ended up talking about it, and we ended up squashing it, and he apologized and everything else like that. So I've been in a similar space. People absolutely hated me for doing this interview at all. And granted, the way that he was presenting himself, he was lying next to a pile of money and so forth. But listen, if someone tries to kill you and you manage to get them first, there's going to be a certain level of, wow, like I actually walked away from this. In terms of, you know, the whole situation with the guy who killed Pop Smoke, I probably would have done that interview. I think it was actually offered to me at one point, and me and Adam talked about it, and I'm like, if you want to do it,
And you got to
go ahead.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because sometimes these interviews come through our platforms, and they try to do a bidding war or whatever over it, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm cool. You could have it.
And I can understand, and Adam should understand why people would feel a certain way about it, especially in the black community, because it seems exploitive to a certain degree. Because listen, people didn't, they showed a picture of O.J. Simpson at the BET Awards.
Right.
White people lost their minds, all right? They didn't even interview OJ. They just showed this picture. Rest in peace, OJ. Oh my God, what is this?
Well,
Stephen A. Smith. He started acting a fool. His hairline fell back 4 more inches. He started clowning to show out in front of white people.
Well, you know, so let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, because my man Faison Love,
Shout out to Faison.
you know, he's the one that started clowning Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
The two of them kind of went back and forth. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is a trigger topic. Let me jump into this arena a little bit. I did a poll, and I didn't say what I preferred. I said, if OJ was accused of killing a black woman and a black man, would he still be honored at the BET Awards? And the voting was kind of 50-50. Personally, I don't care if they honored him.
Yeah.
I can see an argument for both. He was a great athlete.
Yeah.
He was a Heisman winner. He was a movie star, whatever else. And he was found not guilty.
Yeah, he was innocent.
He was found not guilty.
He was innocent.
But, you know, on the other side,
yeah.
although he was found not guilty, most of America felt that he got away with it. And he really did it. So I understand both sides. I personally didn't give a shit. They want to honor. I felt that BT was trolling by doing it. They knew what was going to happen.
Right.
So, you know,
I loved it.
But do you think that OJ would be honored at the BT Awards if his alleged victims were black?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, because he probably would have went to jail. He probably would have went to jail if he was accused.
But let's just say that he got away with it.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have. Yeah, if he killed some black people, which he probably wouldn't have done. It's such a.
If he killed a black woman,
right,
as well as a black man, and most people thought
because
that
he would not have been framed. He was framed in that other case. That was a framing. If he was accused of killing a black person, nobody would have framed him. This is what I'm saying. Okay. There might have been something to it. That shit in '94, he was framed, and it just didn't work. People.
So you think he's completely innocent?
He said, yeah. OJ didn't do that.
Okay,
shit.
so who did it?
That was a drug hit.
Okay.
That was a drug hit. Drug hits were big back in those days.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
we'll never know.
Yeah.
We will never know. He died without ever giving more information
when
about it.
When you have the lead detective who's a neo-Nazi, Mark Furman.
That.
I mean,
Mark Furman definitely
was a
big reason.
He wasn't just a racist. This guy was a Nazi.
He was a total Nazi racist.
Yeah,
I get it.
That shit was planted. The way they said OJ did it, OJ Simpson didn't wake up at 9 o'clock at night and say, hey, I got a flight in about an hour. Let me go ahead and kill my ex-wife real quick. Let me put on some Bruno Magli shoes and a sweatsuit and some gloves that don't fit and a skull cap, and we'll drive over here. Oops, I got to kill another person. No, I don't believe none of that shit.
We will never know.
Right.
This will be an unanswered topic for the rest of time.
Right. But OJ was innocent.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right. He was found innocent.
Yes,
I was supposed to interview OJ.
Wow. What happened?
What had happened was this. I reached out to him. I DM'd him on Twitter. He said, talk to this guy.
Okay.
Because remember, OJ owed like $30 million.
And didn't give them a dime.
And didn't give them nothing.
I loved it.
He also owed his kids money as well. Let's not forget that part.
Okay.
Because the parents sued on behalf of the children.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Okay.
The guy explained it to me, actually.
Okay.
So he was running his money through other people.
Right.
And they were just kicking him cash so he wouldn't have to pay back his, the lawsuits. So me and the guy spoke, and we ultimately agreed to do the interview for $100,000.
Damn. Okay.
It's the most I've ever spent on an interview by far. And the agreement was I would do the interview, and I would do it with the assumption that he was found not guilty. So we could touch on the trial, but he's like, don't go into the blood evidence and all the type of stuff or whatever else. But you could talk about, the whole Vegas situation. You could talk about his football career and whatever. You could talk about his jail time, but don't go too deep into trying to prove that he's guilty. And I'm like, okay, cool. I could agree to that. And the problem happened here. He was like, we want the money in cash. So I checked with my CFO. Okay, cool. Fill out a W-9 form, provide an invoice. We'll provide the money in cash. Cool. It'll be a standard business transaction.
Yeah.
Cool. Agreed upon. We're moving forward. Then he said, we want the entire amount before he walks into the room. And I said, I'm not doing that shit. Because I was like, I'm going to need at least a 3 to 4 hour interview to make this money to be able to earn the money back.
Right.
And what if he just walks out? And he said, well, if you don't ask the wrong questions, he won't walk out. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He already owes someone $30 million. What's another 100,000? What am I going to do if he walks out? My security's not going to shoot him. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to catch a murder case. Like, I have nothing stopping him from walking out after 20 minutes because I've somehow asked the wrong question.
Right.
I'll give you half up front, half at the end of the interview. No. I'll give you 75 up front, 25 at the end. No. We only want it up front or no deal.
Wow.
So I said, business-wise, I can't do it.
Right.
Now, would he probably have sat in and done the whole thing? Probably.
Yeah.
And would this have been his only sit-down life story interview? Yes. But I couldn't take the financial risk of $100,000 for a company my size.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not NBC that could just write off a $100,000 loss.
And I can understand them with the questioning because, he did that deal, that If I Did It book.
Right.
And it was supposed to be understood that this is a nonfiction.
I read the book. It was,
It's nonfiction. But then
whatever.
Years later, they tried to say, well, that's the confession. Oh, my God, he confessed. And,
I don't know about that.
Well,
the Goldman family ended up owning that book.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they put it out themselves. And it's like,
Oh, I did it. Right.
well, the if is in tiny letters.
Right,
And
right.
the I did it is in big letters. So, yeah, I mean, I could have potentially did it, and did the OJ interview, but ultimately, I found over time that when you deal with scammers, they're so scared of being scammed themselves, they'll create ridiculous situations.
Now, is OJ a scammer?
He owed $30 million.
Well, that'd be for something he didn't do. Yeah, I wouldn't give him no money either.
Well, but I mean, he lost in civil court, and he basically
That was
kept
revenge.
running.
He shouldn't have
All
given
I'm
him a
saying is
dime. He shouldn't have given him shit. That's
he-
not a scam. He shouldn't have given him shit.
Listen,
He didn't
however
kill
you want to
nobody?
call it, he owed tens of millions of dollars and managed to not pay it.
Good for OJ.
Okay, whether you agree
That's
or
not
disagree,
a scam.
all I
the
know
scam is trying to frame you for murder
he
that you
owed a
didn't
bunch
do.
of money, and he didn't pay those people way more money than I was going to pay.
Right. Well.
So I knew that 100,000 was going to be no problem for him to
But
walk
the
out of.
ancestors were looking out for OJ and his. Shout out to the ancestors to make sure he didn't have to pay shit.
Yeah.
Good for OJ.
Yeah, man. Back to the whole Adam22 situation.
Yes.
I mean, Adam's justification was this was an important historical moment in hip hop. Pop Smoke getting killed?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
but
Pop Smoke getting killed was an
Right.
important moment in hip hop.
That was, yeah.
And listen, I talked to Pop Smoke a week before he got killed.
Oh, wow.
We were planning an interview.
Oh, wow.
We just kept, I wanted to do it in person, and every time I'd call him in LA, he'd be in New York, then I'd get to New York, he'd be in LA, but he would always pick up my calls, and we got text messages and everything else like that.
Yeah.
I really wanted to interview Pop Smoke. I was mad at his manager because Pop Smoke's never had a story about his life. Never had a real sit-down interview.
Right.
So I admire the whole drill movement in New York. That's all Pop Smoke. All these guys like 5EO and Sleepy Hollow, they all basically based their style on what Pop Smoke did. So he was an important hip hop figure.
Yes,
So
he was.
Adam's thing is, listen, this is, this murder was a very important time in hip hop, and to actually have someone give a firsthand account who was actually involved in it is historically important. Listen, I've interviewed one of the two guys that killed Michael Jordan's dad. And some people were upset about that. I'm sure me and Michael Jordan probably aren't best friends right now.
Right.
But I felt like this was...
That can be seen as exploitive, though, Vlad. Yeah?
Okay, and I accept
like
that.
if I interview the guy, Officer Byrd, who shot Ashley Babbitt at the January 6th thing,
Yeah.
people would lose their minds.
I would love to see that interview.
You there?
I would do that interview. I would do that interview.
Yeah.
100%.
But people, they would lose their minds.
I felt she got exactly what she deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could rest in piss for all.
Yeah.
You try to break into the Capitol building, you try to
Yeah.
kill senators or whatever else, and
Yeah.
you got shot.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Now her family's suing. Fuck them.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I would totally interview that cop.
Yeah.
100%. Now, would some people see it as exploitive? Sure. Who cares? No fucks given. That's just my thing, though.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, listen, like, I interviewed Sammy the Bull. He killed like 19 people. I'm sure his family hates me right now. Right? So I've interviewed lots of hitmen and stuff like that. So I can see both sides of it. I mean, would you interview Dylan Roof?
I would. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. I would interview him to really, to see what was in his head and to understand his views. Yeah, I would interview him.
I don't think I would.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would look bad if you did it.
Yeah. You don't think it would look bad if you did it?
No, because, I'm from the community and I'm doing it, for a reason, to get into the mind of this guy, to warn other people of this is the kind of mindset people like this have, and these are the signs to look for. That's why I would do it. I would do it to warn my audience, like, hey, if you see somebody like this, and Dylan had black friends.
Did he?
Yeah. You know that?
No, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
one of his homeboy was black. His homeboy had a black friend saying, oh, Dylan Roof, yeah, that's my friend. He's not racist. Yeah.
Right. All those
You know
people
what
he
I'm
killed
saying?
in the church?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would interview Dylan Roof because I feel like although Sammy the Bull probably killed more people than Dylan Roof, it was more of a soldier kind of mentality.
It was other criminals, basically.
It was other soldiers,
right.
that he was basically killing.
Right.
Other mafia guys.
Right.
He didn't go into a church
And kill a bunch of innocent people.
But
right.
for example, a regular guest on my show is Terrence Gangster Williams, who has admitted to killing 40 people. All of them black men in New Orleans, starting at 11 years old.
Wow.
Which he ultimately admitted to, which is how he got out of prison. And, he implicated his friends who were dead at the time.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like the Hot Boys was a crew of killers, essentially, in New Orleans. So I have interviewed killers on many occasions, but Pop Smoke is still kind of fresh in people's minds.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it, and the guy was really young who did it. I think he's like maybe 20 now or something.
Yeah. And the way they did it, it was like...
It was a robbery.
It was a robbery, and, they saw him on Instagram or something like that.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Adam is taking the flack right now, but he's not crying about it.
Yeah, Adam is like content over everything. Hey,
Yeah, and me and him are not, that's my friend, but me and him are not on the same page when it comes to content. You know what I'm saying? Like, the threesomes with my wife and
oh Lord, yeah. I've been up there when they're shooting scenes before. I mean, I'm walking through like ass and titties to the other side. So yeah. So it's an experience over at No Jumper.
Whereas I try to suppress the altercation between you and Tommy Sotomayor, he would post it right away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's where me and him differ. I'm trying to show that this is a safe environment and a professional environment, and it's not content over everything. He's like, oh shit, there's an argument. Let's put the content out. And there's nothing wrong with either one of us in terms of how we, express ourselves. But like, for example, the last time I did an interview at No Jumper, I had my armed security with me, and Adam security said he can't bring the gun in. He's gonna have to leave it in the car. And I'm like, I'm not going in.
Oh yeah.
I said, so you either need to call Adam and make an exception, or I'm getting back in my car and driving home. Because I'm not walking in there unarmed, because there's been some crazy shit that's happened at No Jumper. I don't know who's in there.
Right.
Someone who might have a
him.
beef with me or whatever else. I'm not going to get into a fist fight with
Because
somebody.
initially when I would go up there, a couple of years ago, I would have people outside, but now I'm cool. Everything is cool. I go in there. Because I make sure that if I go in there, the conversation is going to be constructive. It ain't going to be no bullshit. So I kind of get that established. And shout out to Wack, and I had a brother named Tazariak. Wack wanted me to come up there and just have a good conversation. And I said, hey, as long as it's not that goofy shit, we're going to be good to go. And we had a great conversation up there. So I like to make sure beforehand it ain't going to be none of that goofy ass stuff up there. Because they need a lot of that stuff they got to cut out. I don't like, because I got a lot of friends who they have up there banging, and they don't need to do all that. They don't really need to do all that up there.
everyone has their own path. And how they make the content. That's his path. He's done well with it. I have a different path. And, everyone has respect for, each other. Well, Tariq, man, I think that this is an example. I really want to do this to send a message to everyone that you could be at odds.
Yeah.
You and I have talked shit about each other publicly, but there's been a limit.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, when you talk about how Tommy talked about your daughter, you never heard me say nothing like that.
Right.
I know you have kids. All I've said was, here's my problem with him based on what I've experienced.
Right.
This is not, I'm not dragging in family members. I'm not talking about, something you can't control, like the way you were born or your race or, your intelligence or whatever else. I said, here's my problem. I'm going to talk my shit. You heard it. You responded. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, just to address one thing, I remember in the last interview you did, you said that most of my audience is white. And I'll say this. Number one, whoever chooses to watch Vlad TV, I'm extremely appreciative. Whether you're white, black, Asian, gay, straight, trans, disabled, whatever, I am truly happy if you watch my content. But I will tell you that when I go outside into the real world, not the internet world, the real world, 90% of the people that approach me to ask for a photo, to tell me how much they like my content, are black men.
Okay.
That's just the reality.
Okay.
So I'm fairly sure that most of my audience is actually black.
You think so? Because the audience for hip hop is
I understand
primarily
that.
white.
I'm telling you about the real world when I actually go outside these doors and go to the mall or go to the grocery store or whatever else. That's who usually approaches
Because
me.
you pretty much, you're in black circles
No, I'm
too.
not.
Too.
I'm talking about when I'm in Calabasas, when I'm in Beverly Hills.
You got a lot of black people who go to Beverly. They don't live in Beverly Hills, but a lot of black people kicking it in Beverly Hills.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but these are not predominantly black areas.
Right.
I'm not talking about, when I go to Compton, black people. No, I'm talking about when I go to areas where it's very mixed. 90%, not black women.
I'm
black
pretty sure
men.
if you went to Coachella, the white kids would be like, hey, that's Vlad, right?
I'm telling you, when I go to airports or I go anywhere where there's mixed crowds, most of my audience, which makes a lot of sense because most of the people I interview are black men. So why wouldn't I have a largely black male audience?
Well,
Doesn't that kind of make sense?
Going back to Coachella, when you look at the audience of Coachella, it's an audience full of white people and black artists on stage. So, the hip hop audience.
Well, it's mixed. Coachella has white and black. I mean, it's not just a hip hop
like,
event.
Rolling Loud in Coachella, it's like
Rolling
sea of
Loud,
white
but not so much
people.
Coachella. Yeah, but
even
definitely
the
Rolling Loud.
Kendrick concert, it was like whites and Hispanics in the audience and all the black people on stage.
Okay,
Yeah?
fair enough.
You see?
Listen, I'm just telling you from what I experience in
Right.
real life. Because as you know, there's the internet and then there's real life.
Right.
The two of them have maybe a 5% overlap. The same person that will say, I hope your family dies and I'm going to go spit on your grave, will see you in person and ask for a photo.
Of course.
And if you say, hey, did you just say this? Oh, man, I was just trolling. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm talking about real life.
Right.
In real life, that's who approaches me, and I'm very thankful of it, man.
That's what's up.
But what I'm saying is, you and I had our back and forth
Yes, we did.
for years now, and here we are,
Chopping it up.
no animosity. When we got on the phone, there was no arguing.
No.
It was like, yo, let me just explain my point of view. You said, cool, you explain your point of view, and I'm like, cool, let's do an interview. Cool, I got something to promote? Great, let's do it.
There it is.
Respectful, you know what I mean? And I'll go ahead and bring back the interview.
From
You know
last
what I
time,
mean?
yes,
For the
indeed.
last time that I took down so people could see our last conversation. And man, listen, check out that documentary. I watched it. It was great.
Thank you so
You know
much.
what I mean?
Yeah.
There's going to be there's going to be a lot of things that you may not agree with, but I think that was the point,
Yes.
is to create discussion points.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think I agree with most of it.
Yeah.
I disagree with some of it, but that is the mark of a great documentary.
Absolutely.
And as a fellow filmmaker, the way you put it together, the graphics, the transitions, the B-roll, great job.
Thank you so much. A lot of
That's
people
what it
like
is.
it.
Till next time.
My man.
Peace.
Thank you so much.